Welcome to Danger, the channel where we dive into the world's most chilling true crime stories. Please like, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can get notified every time we post something. The Jake Evans case is one of the most disturbing family murder cases in recent American history, not because there was a mystery about who committed the crime, but because there has never been a clear explanation for why it happened. The case shocked the United States in October 2012 after 17-year-old Jake O'Brien, Jake Evans, calmly called 911 and admitted that he had killed his own mother and younger sister. His emotionless confession, the handwritten journal he left behind, and the questions surrounding his mental state continue to make this a case that is discussed by true crime enthusiasts more than a decade later. Jake Evans lived with his family in the small community of Annetta South, near Weatherford, Texas. To those who knew them, the Evans family appeared to live a quiet and ordinary life. Jake lived with his mother, Jamie Evans, who was 48 years old, his 15-year-old sister, Mallory Evans, and his father, John Evans. Jake also had two older sisters who had already moved out of the family home. Friends and neighbors later described the Evans family as loving and supportive, and investigators found no evidence that Jake had grown up in an abusive household. There were no reports of ongoing domestic violence or serious family conflicts that could explain the tragedy that was about to unfold. On the evening of October 3, 2012, Jake's father was away on a business trip, leaving only Jake, his mother, and his younger sister at home. At some point during the night, Jake carried out the attack he had reportedly been planning for days. According to investigators, he had carefully thought about what he intended to do and had even written about it beforehand. After the murders, instead of trying to flee or hide what had happened, Jake picked up the phone and dialed 911 shortly after midnight. The 911 call immediately caught the attention of investigators because of Jake's unusually calm behavior. During the call, he told the dispatcher that he had killed his mother and sister and said he needed the police to come to the house. Rather than sounding frightened or emotional, he spoke in a steady voice and answered the dispatcher's questions without hesitation. At one point, he reportedly said the experience felt weird and admitted that he had been thinking about killing someone for a long time. The dispatcher kept him talking until sheriff's deputies arrived at the house. When officers reached the scene, Jake peacefully surrendered without resisting arrest. As investigators searched the home, they discovered a handwritten 4-page confession that Jake had written before the murders. The letter became one of the most important pieces of evidence in the case because it showed that the crime had been planned in advance. In the confession, Jake explained that he had become fascinated after repeatedly watching Rob Zombie's 2007 remake of Halloween. He wrote that he admired how emotionless the fictional killer, Michael Myers, appeared while committing murders and wondered whether he would experience the same emotional detachment if he killed someone himself. He claimed he wanted to know what it would feel like to take another person's life and believed that carrying out the murders would answer that question. Investigators were careful to point out that the movie itself was not responsible for the crime. Millions of people have watched horror films without becoming violent, and law enforcement emphasized that no single movie can explain such an act. Instead, the references to Halloween became only one part of a much larger investigation into Jake's state of mind. The confession also revealed that he had considered killing other members of his family, including his father and older sisters, but abandoned those plans after the murders of his mother and sister. One of the biggest mysteries surrounding the case is the lack of a clear motive. During interviews with investigators, Jake admitted that he was not angry with his mother or sister and said they had not done anything to deserve what happened. He did not claim that the murders were motivated by money, revenge, abuse, or family conflict. Instead, he described feeling emotionally detached and said he had experienced violent thoughts for a long time. This lack of a traditional motive left investigators, psychologists, and the public searching for answers that have never been fully explained. Because of concerns about his mental condition, Jake's legal case did not move forward immediately. In 2013, a judge ruled that he was not competent to stand trial, meaning he was unable to properly understand the court proceedings or assist in his own defense. He was transferred to a state psychiatric hospital, where he received treatment. After spending time in the hospital, doctors later determined that he had regained competency, allowing the criminal case to continue. Although many people have speculated about possible mental health conditions, no definitive public diagnosis was confirmed by the court, leaving many questions unanswered. Initially, prosecutors charged Jake Evans with capital murder, a charge that could have resulted in the most severe punishment available under Texas law. However, after discussions between prosecutors, defense attorneys, and surviving members of the Evans family, a plea agreement was reached. In April 2015, Jake pleaded guilty to 2 counts of murder rather than going to trial on the capital murder charge. The plea agreement spared the family from reliving the painful details of the case during a lengthy court trial. The judge sentenced Jake Evans to 45 years in prison, with the sentences running concurrently, meaning they would be served at the same time rather than one after another. Under Texas law, he became eligible for parole after serving a portion of his sentence, although parole is never guaranteed and depends on decisions made by the parole board. As of today, he remains incarcerated within the Texas prison system. One aspect of the case that surprised many people was the response of Jake's surviving family members. Rather than demanding the harshest possible punishment, they supported resolving the case through a plea agreement. Family members expressed that they wanted to avoid years of additional court hearings and emotional trauma. Their decision reflected a desire to find some measure of closure instead of prolonging the legal process. The Jake Evans case continues to be discussed because it raises difficult questions that may never have complete answers. People continue to debate the role that mental illness, violent fantasies, and media influences may have played in the tragedy. Experts generally agree that no single factor can explain why someone commits such an act, and the case serves as a reminder that acts of extreme violence often result from a complex combination of psychological, personal, and environmental factors rather than one simple cause. More than a decade later, the Jake Evans case remains one of Texas' most unsettling family murder cases. The calm 911 call, the detailed written confession, the apparent absence of a clear motive, and the unanswered questions surrounding Jake's mental state continue to fascinate investigators and true crime audiences alike. While many details of what happened are known, the most important question, why Jake Evans chose to murder the 2 people closest to him, remains one that may never be fully answered. Thank you for watching. If you want more factual and respectful true crime content, please like, subscribe, and share. And as always, stay safe.